I was contemplating that day particularly, like what does freedom mean? Like, what does it mean to be free? Like, we're talking about having our freedoms taken away, and like this is quite heavy in conversation at the moment. And it's interesting to me because I'm like, well, our freedoms were pretty limited in the first place, depending on like what your take on freedom is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realize in this moment that I'm having these downloads, I suppose you could, or like realizations or remembrances, even that directly from nature. And it's not just the otters, but the whole symbiosis of the scene that I am plugged into. And it's like, this is freedom. Like, what you're witnessing right now is otters ottering, reeds are reading, the river is rivering, the clouds are clouding, and like everything just is, and it just is being itself, and it doesn't have to try, it just does it. It's so automatic that it's free. The otters are so free because they don't have to worry about whether they're ottering or not. They just do it. And I was like, oh, fuck, well, we are nature. Like, we are children of planet Earth. We're children of Mother Nature. And I mean, we are blessed or cursed with this awareness of ourselves where we have to question, are we doing it right? But the freedom is the not thinking about it too much. The freedom is just in the acceptance of exactly what's happening in this now moment. And I think I also in the podcast I refer to Nelson Mandela, and he was imprisoned for 20 plus years on Robben Island here in South Africa, which is just off the coast of Cape Town. And he maintained his mind throughout that. He didn't lose his mind, and I don't think there's many people that wouldn't lose their mind in 20 plus years of jail time. But he managed to hold his perception of what was going on to him. So in his head, he was free, regardless of what was going on externally that was completely outside of his control. Now, I've realized, along with many other people with this pandemic, that like I never was really in control of any of this. Like any of this could have just flipped on its head at any moment. And things can just happen in our lives, left, right, and center constantly. And we really have very limited control over them. But what we can control is our perception of how we perceive what is happening to us. And that's what Nelson Mandela did in the prison. He was like, okay, this is out of my control. This isn't ideal, but I'm going to be friends with the guards. I'm going to write a book. And when I come out, I'm going to be the president of South Africa and bring this country back into a state of like freedom. And so what I was learning from the otters and from the nature is like, don't overthink it. Like, you don't have to constantly be trying to figure out how to be, just be. And your body will know. There's an intelligence that's within that is far more intelligent than our minds are at figuring things out. And yeah, it was just a really beautiful moment for me to not just understand, but understand. And by that, like with that tingle up the spine and that like feeling of like almost like a psychedelic vibration that I was receiving from nature, that just puts the biggest smile on my face. And I came home, had a really cold swim in the Atlantic, and then had a hot shower, hit record on a podcast, and I was like, guys, I've got a story about otters for you. And then it was such a pleasure to explain that, because the feeling was so fresh within me. It was really easy for me to get into that flow state and sort of transmit that experience. And yeah, that's really where I'm finding a lot of joy at the moment. It's like telling little stories like that and being present enough in my life to receive the otter medicine. And you asked me what is otter medicine, and it's like that's the medicine. The medicine is anything that brings us back to who we truly are and helps us remember who we truly are, that takes us out of our mind and puts us in a state of like feeling like we trust that we trust ourselves, we trust what's going on, we trust the unfolding of all of the things, and we trust the intelligence that is giving life to us. And that for me is medicine. So medicine can be like plant medicine, of course. So it's have your first high dose of psilocybin mushrooms, and you're going to be reminded of a whole bunch of things that you might have forgotten. But medicine can also be a really deep and meaningful conversation with someone, or just being in the presence of someone who is seeing everything through compassionate and loving eyes and non-judgmental eyes.
It can be
medicine could be anything.
It can be a person, a place, or a thing. And the key thing I'm hearing through all these through lines is authenticity. Whether it's you as an influencer in the content you make, whether it's you as a leader, whether it's you as a mother or a father, brother or sister, whether it's you in whatever role you play within this big global crazy thing we got going on here. And the tricky part is, because we have this self-awareness, how do we handle those moments when we're questioning, should I be authentic or should I say what they want to hear? Or, should I choose the fearful response or the response based out of my heart and what I'm about? And that's the challenge that a lot of us, we're not taught this in school. And if we don't have really great role models around us, or family or friends to help teach us and be instructed with emotional intelligence and dealing with the craziness of society and all the different distractions and just information is thrown at us so much more now than ever. I think everyone has the ability, I think innately, everyone can be authentic. The hard part is expressing that authenticity, is implementing the authenticity, is choosing to respond in a way, especially when it's to somebody you love and respect, but it might make them a little bit angry, for instance, right? Like, I love you, but I want to speak my truth here. And it doesn't mean you have to be a dick or condescending when you present your truth, though. That's the other key thing that I see within sort of the truth community. And I think there's a balance between both worlds that can help each other. But do you guys relate to that at all?
100%.
It's funny. There's Sid Goldberg at Gaia. You remember him, Gordo. He used to say, because he used to follow around a guru, and he asked him one time, should we always speak our truth? Because Sid was very straightforward, and that's what I loved about him. He was funny, he was nice, but he was very straightforward. And he said, should we always speak our truth? And should we always tell people the truth? And the guru just looked at him and said, that's assuming you know the truth. And that's really the crux of most of it, is we are speaking from a place within us. Sometimes we do land on something that is a resonant truth for the whole party that's listening, the whole body politic right there. And then sometimes it's slightly off, or it's actually insensitive, or hadn't considered a different framing of it. And so I find that very fascinating. But I also think that's really beautiful when you're mentioning the otters and you're mentioning freedom. By the way, Destiny Rocks on the chat is saying, this is such a refreshing and enlightening otter story. So thank you. I don't think I've ever felt this good listening to a story about otters. Make sure y'all head over to benjosephstewart.com, become a member. You'll have access to the growing library of deeper dives where I talk about all the stuff that I really can't talk about on YouTube. Make sure you get involved in the Discord chat. That's where a lot of the conversation is happening, talking about new theories, being able to interweave into the greater conversation that is how we awaken infinity. That's our highest potential. And I just want to remind you, you are the most powerful technology ever known to creation. Wield it like an artist with a conscience.